Hi everyone. So for our last part, we worked on building up the lower parts of the pelvis here, the hips, the torso. Now we're gonna like the lower torso. We're gonna work on the upper torso. We're not gonna do the chest right now, the breast. We're just gonna work on the actual building up of the torso, getting to the neck area, and then building out from the arms. So we're gonna do a few more extrusions. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna do about, let's say, one, two, three, four. I'm thinking about 5 extrusions to get to the shoulder from this area right here. So we have enough detail to build out the arms. And basically we want 2 polygon lines to form an arm because that leaves us with 4 polygons, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 8 vertex points to work with. So let's get started with that. So let's do a few extrusions. So we're going to do 1 extrusion, 2 extrusion, 3 extrusion. Let's pop it back at 1, 2, and then 3 to get to the armpit, and then 1, and then 2. And what we're going to do is we're going to curve this out like this, and we're going to build the line so that, because what we're doing right now is we're actually building this line here that's going to form our breast line, like for the upper part of the chest. You know, if you feel your own right below your neck, you can feel the 2 chest muscle parts, your bone structure there, your rib cage that's going to hold that together. So we're just building out this part, and we're going to try and merge these vertexes here, make them nice and flat like the rest of our vertexes. And don't forget to delete those inside polygons. They are always created. You know, I'm looking at mine. Since we did a few different extrusions, there's a whole bunch that have been created. So I just wipe them out really fast. And then I push this together on my model like that. Everything's nice and even. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to start flowing this part of the model. So because we did the rib cage here, basically I'm just going to flow this upwards like this. And I'll just use some slight curve there. I mean, this is pretty much okay. Because what we're going to do eventually is we're going to replace this with the actual breasts and stuff like that. So it's not going to be too much of a big deal. And I leave this little curved. And make sure that you build out the back here. That's going to be important. So just push out the back. Make sure that's looking correct the way you want it to. So let's push it here, there, that. Make sure that this flows down the middle. Remember, you should always try and keep this flow consistent down the middle of the actual torso. So I push this back here. And because the arm is going to be connected way back here, we're going to have to start pushing these vertexes here backward as well. So what I'm going to end up doing is actually bringing this a lot further back. So with my tweaking, we're going to have to bring this here and start flowing this much further back around this point here. Almost getting, you know, this vertex here, not the top one, but getting this one around the center of the arm. And we can start bringing back these vertexes. What I can do is, like, you know how I was scaling on the x-axis and squeezing stuff in? You can actually squeeze it outwards as well. See? And you get that shape. So I can squeeze that outwards, and what I get is, you know, this kind of, I do a little bit of rotation here. Make sure that everything kind of lines up like that. And now if I look around my model, I can go to this view here, go to default shading, and I see that we have the very flat surface right here. And like I said, don't worry about it because we're going to replace it with, you know, the actual chest and stuff like that. We're just building a sort of standard torso that we're just going to adjust and scale out and make sure it looks good right afterwards. So it looks very alien right now, you know. There's nothing there, but it's the base torso, and we're gonna play around with that afterwards to get the nice shape what we want. So the next thing we want to do is we want to do 2 extrusions for the start of the neck. So we're going to push this up. So we see we have all this detail. What I want you to do is, if you're still playing around with these polygons here, make sure they kind of uh, are just like adjusted slightly before you start doing extrusions. And I have this, if you have any floating vertexes, I have a floating vertex here. I'm just going to weld this shut. So this is probably my mistake for not welding this correctly. There you go. Easy peasy. And then now what I'm going to do is I'm going to squeeze this shut, make sure it's completely shut here. Zoom in, close it up. Okay. There we go. I'm making sure there's no hidden polygons. I'm looking at the back of my model here. Make sure some of the squeezing I did there grabbed a couple of polygons. That's okay. Pull these out slightly. So I ran into a little issue with mine where I just welded a couple things that ended up being existing in other parts. So what I can do is I can just adjust that. I'm just going to do this tweaking. You probably don't need to do this because yours is probably more correct than mine is right now. But I'm just going to, and like I said, with 3D modeling, and this is actually a good lesson too, you don't have to panic when something goes wrong. Like you see, like I had an error there. I welded a couple of vertices that shouldn't have been welded together, only because I thought they needed to be welded. And I just took a second, cleared my mind, thought about what the problem was, and then I just grabbed what I knew the problem was, and I just fixed it. See, already done. I already fixed the problem. This is smoothing group 1. Just took 1 second, and I'm back to gold standard. So I'm going to just move these vertexes down the middle a little bit, just so that they make like a nice flowing shape right here. Because what we're going to do now is we're actually going to extrude the neck out of this model. So we have this nice curve here, and we're going to try and follow this slightly to create the actual neck shape. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab all these polygons here, and I'm going to extrude twice to make the neck. Now I'm going to edit as I go because I don't want to mess up too much on this part. I need to make sure it flows with this neck portion here. So I'm going to extrude once, line it up, and I'm going to start doing like a bit of a curve here. So I'm going to pretty much bring it down here, do a little rotation, like that. Maybe even a little more like that. Yep, like this. The reason why I do that rotation is because I know, like, if you feel the way your skin moves on your body, it's kind of like a little bit more heightened in the back than it is in the front. And I'm just going to edit it now to fit it in place. So I'm going to push this pretty much right in this shape right here. And I'm going to push this a little bit higher up for the arm. And there right now, it's just like we were doing before, just a bunch of editing. Like, just make sure that you get that nice flowing shape in the front, and then it flows around the back very well as well. So I'm just making sure everything kind of flows nice, even the middle parts here. I'm going to make sure they line up. I'm going to make sure these are scaled down the middle. Like that, you know, I go in and I check if there's any hidden polygons, holding Alt X. You can see there's about 3 polygons up here that I should grab. Sorry, delete them. Sorry, the 2 polygons right there. They're gone now, so that's good. And then I go to my different views, and I go to my side view here. I hold Alt X, and I make sure that my neck is flowing here as well. So just take your time and go through the process. Make sure your neck looks good. So the first part of the extrusion of the neck is going to be pretty low and closer to the arm, and the second extrusion is going to be a lot further away. So just play around a bit and make sure that you kind of get that result that you want. So I'm going to go here, here, slight tweaking. Just making sure everything kind of looks good from the side view. That's looking pretty good. We can do more tweaking as we go later, so we don't need to worry about it too much for the rest of the body. Right now, my neck is my focus, and I'm checking this out. Yeah, and I'm getting pretty much the result I want. I'm going to bring this a little further down, like so I can create that nice like little curve that we can see forming. Which looks okay right now. I will polygon smoothing group 1 this, just to see how it looks so far. It's looking pretty good. And then my next curve is really going to take it into the next step. Like, we're going to take it to the bottom base of the neck here. And then we're going to work with that. So I'm going to do another extrusion there. Let's see, extrude. And really at this point, I think I'm pretty confident in working on just one side of the body. So what I'll do is I'll end up hiding this part of the body. So as long as this part of the body looks good, I'll be fine. And I'm going to do some slight editing here. Delete those inside polygons. This is my neck now, so I go in my front view, and I will just scale all those vertexes. And I'm going to try and get here so the bottom of the neck looks good, which is pretty much pretty much right there. And then obviously I have to do some scaling and adjusting on the side view here. So I just use the scale tool to take care of that mostly. And then you can see you get the base part of the neck looking pretty good. And if you want to work on the flow a bit, you can always work on that. I'm going to just smooth these out and see what it looks like right now. So I have the smoothing group on. I changed the smoothing group, so everything's part of the same smoothing group. I put mesh smooth on, see what it looks like. And for the upper chest going into the neck, that actually looks really smooth. Everything looks really smooth here, which is good because basically you want to look as smooth as possible. Even the back here looks pretty smooth. If you see like little lumps and stuff like that, you should probably try and smooth out the back as much as possible. Lumps mean that a lot of vertexes are clumping together and are in different positions all over the place. So what you want to try and do is, that's why you want to keep this flow looking good. You get more lumps when vertexes don't kind of flow together well. So what I do is I make my slight adjustments there, and I make sure that everything kind of flows pretty decently from there. And then, that will look a lot better on our model, and hopefully we won't see any major issues with that when we smooth it again. You can see I got rid of a lot of the lumps already just by doing those slight adjustments, and now we have like a really nice smooth back. So that's great, and we also have a neck forming here. We only have the small portion of the neck, but what we can do is we can do one more extrusion. So just do one more extrusion, and we'll work our way to getting the actual neck done here. So I'm going to grab this, and I'm going to extrude it one more time up here, just to form the base part of the neck so we get a good idea of what that neck looks like. I'm going to turn off mesh smooth right now, do my scaling, line it up, scale a little bit more if I want to. That, delete the inside polygons that have formed because of our extrusion, and make sure that it lines up here on our side view as well. So I play around with my vertexes once more to make sure that this looks good. And right now I think this looks pretty good so far, not too bad. And then I make sure they're all part of the same smoothing group. Preview it with mesh smooth. And now you can see we have a tiny neck forming right there. And if we need to smoothen it out more, chances are it just means vertexes are really close. If you see a little edging like this, it looks a little thick. That's how Disney Infinity kind of does their models. They make sure that a lot of edges are closer to one side, so that when mesh smooth activates, they get that nice little ridge. But if we want a little bit smoother, it just means we got to push vertexes further apart. You can see a lot of them are pretty close here and clumping up. So if we just do some slight adjustments there and move them further apart, we will get a much smoother look to the whole thing, and less of that edging effect. It already worked slightly just by doing some slight adjustments. And you can see if we zoom out, we got actually a pretty full character looking pretty good here. You can see the rib cage already forming. You can see some of the stomach. The pelvis looks good going up here. And from the other view, we can see that butt cheek right there. We can see the back and the back of the leg looking good. So it's just a matter of doing our adjustments and taking that time, right? Always remember to take that time. Honestly, I almost can't stress it as much as possible. Like, if you just take your time and slowly go through this, the process, it just works really well. So the arm, I actually think, is probably one of the less complicated things to do. Because we set a place for the arm, you can see we have these 4 polygons here, like this, and we need to extrude out this arm. That's exactly what we're going to do. Now, the way to extrude the arm is always remember the rule of polygons flowing. And I want you to move your arm. I want you to take your arm in real life and move it. Make a T-pose with your arms, so your arms are stretched out, and then move them up and down. What you're going to notice is that your skin folds with your arm, right? Your skin doesn't just like break off and it forms like a new part of the skin, so we can't make like a grid shape. We need to flow it. Your armpit squishes skin underneath it as you go. You can feel it. You can feel like skin contracting together, right? So that's what we have to kind of simulate with our arms. So we don't just extrude outwards when it comes to doing the arm. What we're going to do is just extrude and then rotate as we go along, and it creates that armpit shape for us. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to extrude this armpit. Extrude this arm. So I grab this arm here, and we have our 4 polygons. They're pretty close. If you want to, you can round the shape out a bit more. So if you see like your arm doesn't look like this type of shape, it's more rounded. So what we can do is play around with these vertexes a bit. I'm going to like just adjust it slightly here, and don't worry because mesh smooth will take over a little bit more, making this the nice shape. And when we extrude, you'll see what we'll get. You see we have this nice like sort of circle shape right now. That's cool, and then you can adjust this as you see fit to make sure this all matches up too. And then once we grab these 4 polygons, they have that nice circle shape, and we can do our adjustments afterwards, of course, to make sure the mesh looks good as well. And we can do our first extrusion here, and we just extrude it ever so slightly right here. Like this. Just that, like ever so slightly. And then we extrude again, ever so slightly. Like that. So the reason why we're doing this is because we're going to form the curve with these vertexes to make sure that everything looks good. So what I do is I just grab 1, 2, 3 vertexes, these 3 vertexes here, and I'm going to form maybe around this point of the arm, right there. And then I grab these 3 vertexes, 1, 2, 3. Oh, grab that. And then I'm going to form the middle part. And the reason why I grab the outer part first is because I'm just filling up the content with this vertex line here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to squeeze these in quite a bit. Like very close. And then these ones even closer. Like we're talking like really close. So these vertexes here and these vertexes here would actually be really, really close. And then we're forming the actual armpit itself. Now my armpit's a little lower than this, so I'm just going to lower it about here. And then I'll bring this back here. And we have this loop and this loop. And we'll have this loop here. And you can see that we're actually flowing this part of the model, right? So we're adjusting with the flow here. I'm adjusting these vertexes to go with the flow. Same with these ones here. And you can see, if you just look up on this model, you can see the polygons here are flowing downwards, right? They're going to flow down the arms. And even these for the chest, they're going to flow down the sides of the arms. And here, they're going to flow down the back of the arms. And here underneath the arms. And that's what we're going for. We're going for that flow. And that's the reason why we start with rotating. So what we're going to do now is we're going to extrude 2 more times to form the entire shoulder right here. And then go down to the arm. So we're going to extrude 1 more time. Do our rotation. Do your scaling. And you can adjust these vertexes because basically we want them like blow back here to create that nice smooth loop like this. And then 1 more time with the extrusion. And then extrude 1 more time. And I grab these and I will move them, rotate, scale right here. Like that. So we can do our adjustments and everything like that. You can see my arm is actually like really thinned out over here, but don't be afraid to just grab polygons. You know, I can just grab these 2, push it forward, and there. Easy peasy. I got my arm pushed forward. And we can flow, make sure these polygons flow a little bit better, a little bit better, and we can adjust these vertexes to make sure that it flows down the arm a little bit more consistently. Because we want to try and keep this flow. This character is really soft and organic. If we have it really so that it's not flowing, where it's like one muscle really pops out more than the other, you get what's called like a lot of muscular look, really a lot of refined lines. We don't really want that too much for this type of character. So, like our character is really soft, and you can see now we're getting that shape. And if I go to mesh smooth, you know, that arm is looking really good. That shoulder looks like very much like a nice shoulder. So we want to keep going with that. But the easiest part about the arm is just pretty much a lot of extrusions. All you're doing is extruding down the arms. The only rule for the arms that I always like to keep is that around the elbow area, just make sure there's like a nice 3-pack edges. So you have edges that loop above the elbow, in the middle of the elbow, and right after the elbow, and then you continue onwards with that. Everything else in between is kind of like almost like up to you how many vertexes and polygons you want for the detail that you want to get. So for instance, if I extrude, I'll just extrude once for the bicep arm. My character is pretty simple, so I'll have this, right down there. I check my side view to make sure everything's lining up correctly, so I put it down there. So I'll extrude this, and so what I'm going to get now is this is my first, basically my first set of polygons that are going to be the top part of my elbow. So this is top part of the elbow. Then I extrude one more time. I'll raise this actually a little bit like this, like that. And then I extrude one more time after I do my adjustments here on the side view. Extrude one more time. This will be the middle of my elbow, so I'm going to actually squish it in a bit here like this. Push it forward slightly like that. I'll extrude one more time because this will be the bottom part of my elbow area. So this will be kind of where it bends, right? If you're going to animate this model, this would be where the bending area is. So we'll do adjustments to that afterwards to make it more animatable as well. And then we're good for that. So then I just push it forward and I make sure it kind of lines up. And you see we have this nice arm shape coming down. And then this part, you can also do as many extrusions as you want. But around the wrist, I'd like also about 2 or 3 different, probably 2 polygon loops. So that would mean about, that'd be 3 edge lines. So from here, I can just put as much detail as I want. So for me, I'm going to do, 1 extrusion here, like this. Go down, and then I have maybe, let me try just doing 1 more extrusion in the mid of the arm here, like this. All it is extrusions, 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 right? And then I'm going to do my, my 3 extrusions. So this will be the top part of the wrist here. And then I fix that in my side view. Now her wrists get really thin. Of course, if your character's wrists are thicker, then obviously thicken them up. But basically, what I want is about 2 polygon loops, so that I can bend my character's wrist really nice when it comes to animation, and I just do my rotation and adjustments, and should be all good to go. So if from the front view everything looks good, from here I might need some slight adjustments. I might grab these polygons here at the base and push it forward slightly like that. And if you need to do some scaling and stuff like that, this is a good time to do it right now before it gets a little complicated. So just do your adjustments how you see fit. Look at your model, rotate around it, make sure everything looks good. It's going to be very important, especially when you get to hand modeling, where you need to make sure that the arm really looks good. And you can see from here, if I go to mesh smooth, have my mesh smooth on, that looks really good, right? That doesn't look too bad at all. And like I said, it's all about tweaking and adjusting as we go through with our model. And you can see even in our armpit here, our armpit looks really nice. It has that nice little bend in it and everything like that. Connects to the back shoulder. So we had a lot of detail in the back of our arm here, which we might need to smooth out a bit. But yeah, but so far that looks really good too. It's just something that might need this slight tweaking, because you can see these vertexes are really close. Like I said, the further apart they are, the lot smoother a model looks. The closer they are, you get that that Pixar edge look, like the Disney Infinity edge look, I should say. So you just might want to space them out just ever so slightly to get more of a softer look to them. And you can do that with pretty much any part of the model too. So if you need to do, I go back here, I just rotate, I make sure everything's kind of spaced out nice. I go here, tweak this, lift the shoulder to try and match my reference a little bit better. You don't need to be perfect with the reference, right? If you want to do a different type of model, or you're going to do lots of adjusting or whatnot, feel free. That's the whole point. This is you have to be a little bit creative too when it comes to this, and it's never, your modeling is never going to look like my modeling. It's never going to be spot on with anybody else's. This is where you start to develop your own style and stuff like that too, right? Don't forget that just like anything else, style matters a lot too, and that includes modeling. One example I like to use in my classes is think about Tim Burton. Tim Burton has such a unique style that I bet you that if I threw 400 pictures on the ground from a whole bunch of different artists, you could probably tell me who Tim Burton is or which artwork he did right away. So don't be afraid to like experiment with your own stuff either, and kind of go like outside the box a little bit, um, because that's going to be really important, especially to separate yourself from other portfolios. Is to just like how much you bank on emotions or nostalgia, or just overall like how people feel about your portfolio looking a lot different than others. Some people may not like it, and some people may love it, and it also makes you very unique and stick out of the crowd. If you haven't seen the Tim Burton exhibit, uh, I would highly suggest it, or look at his artwork online. You can, I mean, he's so much different than other Disney animators that he was able to get his own work afterwards. So after some slight tweaking, I got a nice look that I'm going for here. Everything looks pretty good. There's a nice bend. It seems to match the reference quite well. The back view looks a lot better. The armpit looks pretty good, and this is without lighting or anything like that, right? So, and everything looks good. That's without mesh smooth on. Mesh smooth on. Everything looks really, really smooth. Then you got the stomach, the booty, the pelvis, the legs, and the arms looking good. So the next step will be working on the hand, and I'll teach you how to model the hand in the next video. Good luck so far.